Well, in fact, StatCan does not need the information. What we do is, in fact, make sure that Canadians, policymakers, businesses have at their disposal the most recent, the most timely, the most detailed and high quality data that they need to inform themselves to make important decisions for our economy and our society.
Do we have any sense, though, because you would be the body compelling the transfer of banking information, what that would be used for?
Well, certainly. Let's have a look at the changes that are happening in our society and our economy, and at the pace at which that they're changing. So, today more than 75% of us do all our transactions online. So, I pay my bills online, my check gets deposited online, I make transfers online. I mean, I struggle to find a check in my own kitchen. So, this is where most people are actually doing their business. So that is where we as Statistics Canada have to go in order to get at the most timely, as I said, information and the most relevant information. There's no sense in Statistics Canada coming out and telling you, what the situation was back, 3 years ago, because that's how long it took us to do a survey, and it only represents, a certain segment of population that may have given us responses. Today's society, as you know, requires information at a level that is relevant to them and what is current today. And what the important thing to keep in mind here, Ms. Lang, is that we protect the privacy and confidentiality of that information. There is never another department, there is no organization, there's no Canadian that's going to be able to get at your transaction. And what we're trying to do here is get a very small fraction of the billions of transactions that occur each and every year.
Well, would the transaction information be attached to personal information like a social insurance number?
Well, look, anything that we do, whether it's a survey or whether it's looking at an administrative source of data, at the core of what we do, it obviously starts with a record. So it's my record, your record. But we, over 100 years, have, perfected techniques that bring it in, that we strip off anything that could identify you or me from that particular record. And from that point onward, it is a record that is essentially anonymous through our various processes until the point where we put data out. So this is where we're, trying to tell Canadians about what's happening in their particular city or in their particular neighborhood or community, about, to the degree to which we might be leveraged, let's say in our mortgages or in our debts for housing, for example, is a very important issue, or how we're participating in today's digital economy, what kind of digital services that we make use of. These are the kinds of policy gaps, these are the kind of data gaps that our users keep on telling us that Statistics Canada needs to do more, and we need to fill these important gaps so that Canadians can make decisions on relevant information that is up to date, and that it actually tells them about what's happening in their community, but of course never ever divulging the information that is relevant to you or I as an individual.
But we have seen privacy breaches in the past, and we know that cybersecurity is a growing concern, not a lesser one. So how can you really guarantee, if you have transactions linked to personal information, in other words, if the banks give you the connected information, not separate from the personal information, how do we really trust that even another government department can access it, let alone hackers?
Well, we have an excellent, privacy commissioner. They have qualified people. We've got 100 years of experience in doing this. In fact, on this project, over the course of the last year, we worked with the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. We met with them regularly on this particular project, just like we do on so many other projects. And we take their recommendations. We take their input into account, and we go up. In this case, we even went above and beyond that and actually prepared a very specific privacy impact assessment, which is essentially that process of ensuring that we reflect the sensitivity and the concerns of Canadians from a privacy perspective in the design of what it is that we're doing. We work with the stakeholders, we work with the people who are providing us that information. We try to understand their particular concerns. And remember, we're still in the process of putting this design together. In fact, just yesterday, given some of the media attention, given concerns that I take very seriously from Canadians, Canadians, I asked the Privacy Commissioner, come in and do a deeper dive. If we've, through the course of the year, we've missed something or we need to strengthen some of our processes, I welcome that, a deeper dive. Let's have a look and let's just make sure that Canadians are assured that when they provide Statistics Canada with this information, that their privacy and confidentiality is always assured.
That feels like a key point. We aren't providing it to Stats Canada. We provide it unwittingly to our financial institutions because we have to. This obviously is striking a chord. Would you agree that Canadians might want to opt out of this? That it may be that with transparency, some Canadians say, I don't actually want this personal information or my health data, for that matter, to be handed over to a government agency?
Well, I respect the privacy concerns that Canadians have, and we understand the sensitivity of these, types of data stores, et cetera. One, Statistics Canada has dealt with very, very sensitive data on the health of Canadians, on the economic condition, on their transactions, et cetera. Remember, the traditional source of getting this information has been, we actually go to households and we work with them, we actually give them a diary, and they have to keep track of every single expenditure, from their income to, so we've been doing that in traditional means, and we've always protected the privacy and confidentiality of that information. What we're now doing, what we're finding is that, with those kinds of methods, we're not able to meet the demands of Canadians. So we have to go to electronic records, but the same level of privacy, if in fact we're going above and beyond that, knowing the sensitivities that are inherent. And the last thing I want to point out is, so for example, we live in one neighborhood and we know just a few blocks down, the price of housing may be very different. The type of people living in a particular area may be very different. What we don't want to do is to create a patchwork of statistics where Statistics Canada comes out and essentially says, well, in this neighborhood, people are leveraged to this certain degree, but, I can only tell you that because only so many people opted in, so I don't know about those people that didn't opt in. It doesn't really make for good data for policy or decision making. So we have to provide representative data for areas.
I understand why a statistician wants more data, not less. I get that. The privacy issue is a big one. Can you just tell me what the response will be if the banks refuse to share this information, which is one possibility?
Well, first of all, we will continue to do our best and earn the respect and the trust of Canadians. That's what we've done all along, and we'll continue to do that. And so, this is a pilot. We're moving forward. We're going to learn. We're working with the banks to understand their concerns. What we're doing is every statistical agency in the world, does this. Even the Privacy Act, in fact, PIPEDA, even the GDPR that was brought in. In Europe recently, they all carve out statistical purposes. So this is for statistical purposes. As I said, what we do is we strip any identifiers, we use it, and we never let a single record that could identify you outside the agency. What we're trying to get at is, what are the gross kind of flows? What is the situation in a particular area that people can use to make good decisions on? So we're still working at this. We're going to continue to work with the banks. We're going to continue to work with the Office of the Privacy Commissioner, and we're going to do what we have to do in order to make sure that Canadians have the data that is of the quality and the kind of detail that they need to make important decisions today and going into the future.